Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to, again, use our model here. We use that term very loosely. But we're going to do a long arm splint. We're going to talk about some of the tricks to putting a long arm splint in place and what your position is for that. Then we're going to talk about sugar tong splint on the forearm, which would decrease this supination, pronation movement, and sometimes we want to do that. Sometimes we also use an AP splint, which is just basically a volar splint, and then one on the dorsal side, exactly like the volar side, just put it on the other side, the back side of it. But in this case, in what we call a sugar tong, will wrap from all the way from the dorsum across to the volar. But the first thing we're going to do is the long arm splint. Go ahead.
Okay, so we've already got our padding and everything pre-cut. Just in the interest of time, we've shown you pretty much all the padding. Again, we're going to go to the base of the fingers. And again, you can just use this to kind of hold things in place for you.
Usually keep their clothes out of it.
Another consideration to think about, what are they wearing? Is it tight? You may want to think about getting them some of our paper scrubs, especially for long arms. You don't want any clothing on that's going to rip our padding off or pull our atrips off as they change clothes. So you need to think about that ahead of time. So this is the padding for the long arm splint. Goes all the way up as far as, again, you don't want to be up into the armpit. You want to be a little bit higher. We've got the stocking material all the way up. We got it down here. I'm going to measure. I forgot to pretty well. Sometimes you can get the cart before the horse like I just did. You can still measure your material. Just cut it a little longer than you think you need. Okay. One other little trick I want to show them real quick. Say you're really worried about right in here, you really want that padded, and you don't want to wrap everything. You can always just come in the area you really want to pad. Let's just say this
Cut in
really
small pieces.
I'm literally going, I'm not wrapping all the way around. I'm just putting it where I want it. So if they're really tender here, especially with ankles, things like that, you can add that in. All right, so I got my material is ready. I got my sugar tong ready. It's built, it's ready to go. I got my splitting material. I've got my padding on. So we're going to go ahead and get this on again. Pay attention to your whiskers. And I lost my towel, but you can always roll it into itself like this. Just use less water for that. Now, in rolling it, see how it pushed that out? So if you've checked it before, after you've rolled it, check it again because it's pushing, it'll push that material out on you. Undo the tape, quick cut, and you're fixed. So we're going to go right to here, and we're going to go to here. And again, especially if you're working by yourself, so before you go any further, you're going to apply your padding for your sugar tong. Again, the long arm splint, just like the leg splint, goes under the sugar tong.
If we just asked for a long arm, it would not include, we'd be done now, and all we would do is wrap this like we did before with the ace wrap. Now we're adding this sugar tong component. And if we didn't, we could actually just do sugar tong without the long arm. And in that case, obviously, this part wouldn't have gone in, but we do the sugar tong exactly the same way as what we're doing right now.
Make sure your sugar tongue doesn't slide off the end down here. You want it across the upper arm. You don't want it hanging across the elbow back here.
And again, each of these layers is 10 layers thick of the web roll. Make sure we have plenty of padding over the bony prominence. The bony prominence at the elbow is this medial lateral epicondyle, these little bones right here. Make sure those are covered well. Partner's holding this up. Again, bringing it to the same area so we can still bring this.
Now, I ran this a little bit long. If you ever accidentally do that, right here where this is going to come into the thumb, you're just going to make a little cut. And then you can go across either side of the thumb. Now we can bring this material down to this. And we're going to start wrapping.
And again, wrap distal to proximal. Typically we like to use the 2-inch around the hand right here. It makes it a lot easier to go into this first web space. Taking care not to pull too tight, just a slight pull on there so it doesn't fold and bunch.
It's also a good idea to pull this out so you're not pulling across tight. You pull it out, you see where your stretch is, and then you can just go across. You get it out a little bit so you see exactly how much your stretching is. It kind of helps you not stretch it too hard. Now I'm going to come with a 4-inch, and I'm going to start a little bit further up. Make sure this all tucks in. See how this tucks inside of this splint here? That's why we use a slightly smaller splint. That way we're not having a fight between the two.
Slightly smaller on the stirrup part of it, or the
yes.
or the second splint.
Now again, if you're too short or a little short back here, just add A-strap to it.
Add an A-strap. Okay. And as we mentioned before, make sure you go get the provider, have them take a look. Again, same thing, capillary fill. Make sure they can move. Does it feel okay? How does it feel?
Feels great.
Anything hurt, especially down here in your elbow?
It didn't hurt before, but now it doesn't hurt anymore.
Definitely doesn't hurt. All right.
Do I wear a sling with this, sir?
Yes, we would put you in a sling with this too, because these things get heavy. And we would put him in a sling, just like Noel mentioned before. And we'll talk in another video about how to put those slings on. And the difference between slings and shoulder immobilizers, things like that.
Same things apply to this splint that we talked about with the other ones. Your instructions are pretty much the same. You are going to have a hard time getting anything to cover this, so I would say if they're all long arm splint, just keep it out of the water. Take a bath, keep the arm up out of the water, keep it protected as best you can. Shower, it's going to get wet. So that is the one time I'd say you need to take a bath. But again, cap refill, we're not too tight here. You know, if we got too tight, we'd be cupping. You'd see this. We don't want that. And you can make sure you get your fingers in there nice and easy and open that splint up.
Neutral position on this, again, same thing before. And remember, his long arm splint started on the ulnar side and dove in. There are times when we will have you have the hand supinated. Remember, we talked about that position, which is opening up to hold a cup of soup, if you think about it that way. every once in a while, we will have a long arm splint in this position. There's reasons for that, but we won't go into it right now. But generally, you run it on the ulnar side and down, unless we specifically ask for a supinated position.
And then it's just a matter of rolling it around at the elbow, which is something